So, without further ado, we're going to go into one of my favorite segments of this show, Hypocrite of the Week! Woo! This week's Hypocrite of the Week is going to a special pastor who not only contracted AIDS and gave it to his congregation, several members of his congregation, but he also admitted to using drugs. He also admitted to misappropriating church funds. And when the other elders and deacons of the church attempted to regain control, he changed the locks on the church and basically told them that he wasn't stepping down. So we're going to go ahead and view this video, and then we will discuss it. Can you guys see that? All right. Let's see if you can hear it.
Juan Demetrius McFarland did not hold back when he revealed to worshipers at Shiloh Baptist Church on September 14th that he contracted HIV in 2003 and discovered in 2008 he had AIDS.
The church was very accepting of Reverend McFarland. They were willing to help him in any way possible.
But once the pastor with 23 years of leadership started revealing more and more on the following Sundays, members and leaders say they realized McFarland had crossed the line. In a resolution read aloud at church, leaders shared and Pastor McFarland confirmed to us he admitted drug use, mishandling church funds, and what members say was the ultimate shocker, described by church deacon Nathan Williams, Jr.
We concealed from the congregation of the church that he had knowingly engaged in adultery in the church building with a female member of Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church while knowing that he had AIDS.
This past Sunday, McFarland was removed as church pastor. Still, church members say some congregation members are afraid to come forward, and many are concerned.
Who does this to people? And you're the leader. Who does this? I know a lady who is a member of the church who said she had slept with him and that she didn't want this to go public. And, she's running out now trying to find out, if there's anything wrong with her. And my heart goes out to her because she's been a wonderful, wonderful member of the church.
Deacon Williams says in his 70 years at the church, this is the biggest scandal the church has ever experienced. Williams says leaders have obtained legal counsel and is now focused on moving the church forward.
Our move is going to come directly from the council. We want peace. And we want to do the right thing legally. We're not
all right, we'll cut that short.
Get the church back.
And go back to the discussion here. So I didn't realize, because I didn't watch that video, but I didn't realize that he was also performing these sexual acts in the church. So that takes it to a whole new level. But there's some serious issues here. Now this actually happened last month, but as you know, we only cover one hypocrite of the week per week. So I felt it was only right to discuss him because his case is technically not over yet. He still has to be charged and tried and all that good stuff for knowingly giving these women HIV/AIDS. You guys have anything you would like to say about this? This guy really has done it all.
Let's see. I think, didn't that occur in Montgomery, Alabama?
Yes, and I also know that the Prototype Atheist mentioned this in this episode that, exalting these church leaders up onto a higher pedestal, and that is really a hidden cost of religion because you're putting them on this unreachable, above reproach kind of situation, and then they take advantage of it. And we mentioned this many times throughout the history of reason. And yes, it did happen in Alabama, so not too far away from you, GE.
No. Yeah, I remember when that came out. I wasn't too surprised. But and it's not just putting up these deacons or whatnot up on a pedestal, but it's putting God up on a pedestal too, because when you put God up on this pedestal, and I actually can't remember the exact verse that says that God's ways are higher than ours, but there's a verse in the Bible for that. But when you have that kind of verse, and then you appoint these people as being spokespersons for God, basically, or being trained in the word of the Lord or whatnot, that really puts them in a position to manipulate people very easily, because God is up on this high pedestal. God is supposed to be above criticism and whatnot, and this isn't only apparent in the Baptist church like this guy was doing, but it's also very relevant in like the Catholic sex abuse cases with children that we've been seeing. There have been several instances where Catholic priests have used God, some kind of really screwed up reasoning that makes it seem like to the child that this is what God wants, and that God wouldn't allow it if he didn't want it to happen, and so that's why they get raped. And so putting these people up on this pedestal, putting God up on this pedestal, is a very, very dangerous concept.
Yeah, I agree, and again, that goes along the whole line that we've been talking about is, you put these people in positions of authority, and they, give them a lot of respect, and somebody like a pastor is they're the spiritual leader, they're the head of the church, and these women were probably coming to him with their most vulnerable, with things that they were battling, maybe even emotionally in their love life and things like that. And this guy clearly used his position of authority and as a man of God, as it were, to take advantage of that. So he was there to be a consoling force, a shoulder to cry on, and what have you, and kind of talk them, through what they're going through, and then have them emotionally be drawn to him, and then he takes advantage of it. And the thing is with these Hypocrite of the Week segments is, we're not trying to smear all religious people or anything like that. We're not trying to stereotype. The thing of it is that when you say you're a Christian, especially if you're a pastor, you're a religious leader of some kind, you're supposed to be a moral authority. You're supposed to be better than just the average person, and better able to deal with those things because you have God on your side, and you have the morality of the Bible or from God himself. And so that's where the hypocrisy comes in, is because you are saying that because of your belief in your God, that you are more able to be a moral person and have a better moral compass. And yet we see this all the time, that people that believe in God are just as human as anybody else, and that they're fallible, and that they have failings, and that they can take advantage of people. And so that's where the hypocrisy comes in, and that's why we talk about this. That's why things like this are so much worse when they happen in the context of religion, because they put themselves out there on this pedestal and claim to be above the rest of society that maybe doesn't have God, or even other religious people, because as a religious leader, you're supposed to be setting the example. You're supposed to be a role model. And that's why we need to call this out and talk about it. And of course, they're consenting adults. And if he wanted to have a sexual relationship with some of the female members of his church, even if he was using his authority to do so, as consenting adults, even if he was doing it in the church, hey, whatever. But the worst part of it all is that he had AIDS and knowingly was having sex with these women and putting them at risk. And fortunately, thanks to science, we now can treat AIDS, and people with AIDS can live for a long time with the proper treatment and diagnosis. But that doesn't excuse it. That's still, you're knowingly exposing someone to a degenerative disease, and you need to be punished very harshly. And I hope that he is, especially if it was multiple cases of women that he was doing this to. So yeah, definitely shameful, and hopefully the authorities will give him what is coming to him.
Yeah, I think that this is just another really horrible example of someone abusing their power. And here's the thing that I'm noticing with these Hypocrite of the Weeks is that when your role model becomes someone who is in a position of power, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure, because you need to realize that power corrupts. And it takes someone who is very, very, very pure and responsible and mature to not abuse their power in a way that is going to hurt other people. And you'll find that that is very rare. I mean, even in politics, or in the workplace where bosses are favoring like another person over another. Anytime you have someone in a position of power, they almost always use it to benefit themselves in some way. And so you have to be really careful about making your role model someone in a position of power. So with this Hypocrite of the Week, I want to go ahead and say to everyone that if you're going to have a role model, try to make sure that it's not someone in a position of power. And if it does happen to be someone in a position of power, make sure that they are not externalizing their moral authority. Because if they are, we have seen over and over again that someone who is consistently trying to externalize their morality, they are often the most crooked and scandalous people inside. So, 4, using drugs inside the church, having sexual relations inside the church when I'm pretty sure he was married, committing adultery with other members of his congregation who were also committing adultery, and also misusing the church funds, one of the worst things that had it not been for the guy having AIDS, and then also knowingly giving all of these women the death sentence by giving them HIV/AIDS. I am stamping this pastor with Hypocrite of the Week, and I hope that they deal with him very severely and justly, and he suffers and stays in jail forever for basically killing these people slowly.